Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October 4th Washington County Planning Commission meeting. Get started, let me introduce the board. We've got Denny Reeder, Klein, Jeff Semler, Randy Wagner, and I'm Clint Wiley. The first items on this evening's agenda are the minutes. The first ones we have are August 16th, 2021 Planning Commission workshop meeting. I want to make sure everyone has those if they have any questions or comments. Otherwise, we were looking for a motion.
I wasn't here for that, so.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The second item this evening are the, under minutes, we have August 30, 2021, the Planning Commission Public Information Meeting and regular meeting minutes. And again, if there are any comments or questions? I don't know if I was here for that or not.
No, I wasn't here, was it?
No, you can not.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Under old business, we have RZ 21005. This is a recommendation on the Sharpsburg Pike Holdings LLC, a proposed map amendment for 9.92 acres of property located at 10319 Sharpsburg Pike from highway interchange to mixed use residential and commercial. And the planner is Travis Allen. Good evening, Travis. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. So we're here tonight to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners concerning this piecemeal rezoning application. You'll recall last month that we had a public information meeting concerning the rezoning of Lot 7 at the Sharpsburg Pike, about a third of a mile south of the I-70 interchange, totaling 9.92 acres. And as stated, the applicant is looking to affix the mixed-use commercial district atop the base highway interchange zoning. So at the meeting, I summarized the criteria that applies to mixed-use districts, which is in Article 16 of the zoning ordinance. We presented sort of banner headline concerns with the application, which, as you'll recall, were primarily with the capacity in the South High School District and the potential future availability of public water related to the city's medium range growth area. You'll also probably recall that public comment during the meeting was heavily focused on traffic-related impacts, particularly a number of people from the Cross Creek development cited circulation patterns that would impact the neighborhoods as people are kind of cutting through to get to Poffenberger Road, as well as some of those other points east and west. And to this point, I think Deb included some more written comments that were submitted in the time since the meeting. So all the comments, both during the meeting, for the meeting, and now what you have here tonight, have been opposed to the rezoning. We did take up the matter that was brought to everyone's attention the last time around, which is, whether adequate public facilities concerns should be considered during the zoning phase or during the site plan approval phase of the development. Hopefully at this point, everyone got an email from the county attorney's office, which kind of summarized their stance on it. And I believe, Jill, do you want to elaborate further on that?
Good evening, Commissioners. Jill Baker, Director of Planning and Zoning. Just to very quickly elaborate upon the email that you should have received, and then the hard copy that was hopefully there at your desks this evening. Speaking to the county attorney's office, I think there's a couple things here to clarify of what's being talked about. First and foremost, the applicant is 100% correct in saying that the APFO, the adequate public facilities, are dealt with at the development phase. We are not asking them to deal with that at this phase. That's not part of the request that's being done here. As part of the process with these rezoning cases, when we review an application, we are, however, in accordance with the zoning ordinance, required to look at infrastructure to determine whether or not we feel like the infrastructure that is here today could handle additional development in accordance with the plans that they submit. Therefore, the application that was submitted to us said nothing about how they would deal with the public school system. That's why we felt that as part of our response that we needed to notify you that the schools are over capacity and that there is nothing in the county CIP, nor is there anything in the Washington County facilities or Washington County facilities document that expresses any money being spent to fix those issues. Now, the applicant did present some ideas to you about making it age restricted, so forth and so on. Had that been part of the original application, this could very well be a different discussion. What we search for when an application is submitted to us, when we are trying to make our recommendation to you, is exactly what they talk about in this case law, is highly solvable. Is it highly solvable? Is it probable that we can find solutions to the issues that are at hand and acknowledge that the infrastructure in place can't handle it? That's what we were doing. That's all we were trying to say. As far as the city water, do we feel that it's probable that that issue can be fixed? Absolutely. However, we have to let you know what the repercussions to fixing that are. That is, unfortunately for the applicant, not something they can fix. That is something that has to be resolved at the elected official level. We simply feel the obligation to let you know what those repercussions are if we move forward. That's simply all we're trying to do here. So I want to make it clear from a staff recommendation standpoint, it's not that we are asking the applicant to solve everything right up front and make sure that everything's adequate as soon as we approve the rezoning. It's give us some indication of how we could get this through and find probable solutions. The application that was submitted did not show that to us. The information provided to you as part of the public information meeting, it'll be up to you in your deliberations to determine whether or not you feel like the information they provided to you in addition to their application makes this issue highly solvable. However, it is very clear from the county attorney, we absolutely should be looking at our infrastructure. We absolutely should be looking at the repercussions through the APFO lens, not necessarily as a find a solution today, but acknowledge the restrictions and give us an idea of whether or not we feel it can be fixed. That's all we're trying to go for here. And that was that's why the recommendation that came out was the way it came out. So with that being said, what we're going to tell you is that we agree that no, the APFO doesn't get applied here. However, we look at the APFO to help us understand what the infrastructure needs are. And then we decide whether or not those infrastructure needs are highly solvable. We simply didn't have the information specific to us in the staff report at the moment to determine that. So we will then leave it to you in your deliberations, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about what that means or what your concerns are and so forth. I hope that explains it a little bit better of where we're coming from in terms of application of APFO.
All right. Well, thank you. Do you have anything else before I open the floor? So I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion on this.
I will stay out of this
Yeah.
discussion and
Okay.
recuse myself.
Yeah, I appreciate the county attorney's discussion on this. And in relation to what Jill just said, the lines that stuck out to me after the initial discussion about whether we consider APFO or not, it says, that being said, common sense should also be applied to the rezoning application. If the infrastructure is clearly and wholly insufficient and is not likely to be able to be improved in point of adequacy, that is, if the infrastructure issues are highly unsolvable, then the planning commission should recognize that circumstance and take it into consideration and so forth. So when I think about this rezoning application, I went over to check out the traffic. I drove over a couple times to see what was what. And again, this is just my opinion, one person, but I think, this is an intersection along an interstate. It should be expected to be busy. That's the whole point. You have all the commerce there and so forth. It should be busy. Yeah, there are traffic issues. There are traffic issues now that could be resolved. I will tell you that when we had the online zoning review for the Black Rock PUD and the traffic issues were brought up, I can tell you every day for at least 2 weeks, a sheriff's deputy was out on that road patrolling or sitting with radar. So there are ways to deal with certain traffic issues. You know, you can reroute traffic, you can do one-way roads, you can do speed bumps. I mean, there's any number of things. I would call traffic issues there solvable, in my opinion. The water issue is a city issue. As you said, it's not that I don't think that this developer would go put in a wholly separate private water system for his apartments. I don't believe that's realistic. And as we said at the hearing, the big elephant in the room was the school overcrowding. And that affects not just that developer, but anybody who wants to develop residential subdivisions in that part of the county. And I didn't see the developer or willing to put up $60-80 million to build a new school, and that's not likely. And so to me, that's highly unsolvable for that developer. I didn't mind the site plan that he had or the concept at all. I mean, like he said, he could build a hotel, he could do this, he could do that. The difference between a hotel and apartments to me is not that great that it doesn't make that big a difference. I did not object to his site plan or his concept plan. It wasn't really a site plan at all. What I do object to is authorizing a zoning change in an area where the infrastructure does not and will not support what you would be authorizing to do. So
Specifically, you're
the
talking
school,
about school.
specifically the school. And for that reason, I would have to oppose it. And I thought long and hard about this because, you need apartments. If we're going to get all of these distribution centers and so forth, there'll be people looking for places to live and so on. And that's, I'm not opposed to that personally at all, but the infrastructure doesn't support it. Therefore, I don't see any way that I could support the zoning change.
I'm not, I'll just say something, throw out for the rest of the people who are going to vote on this tonight. What can you elaborate? I think there's a couple elephants in the room. Can you elaborate on the water?
Sure. The water is, first of all, let me say that the city water, city utility, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Well, there is water available. They have told the developer there is water available. We acknowledge the fact that there is currently enough capacity for them to get water. And I don't think that's the problem. The problem is internal to us, and it's an acknowledgement that there is a limited water supply, and the city has basically said to us, please acknowledge the fact that we have a limited water supply, and any changes that you make to zoning, your growth areas, anything like that will impact our long-term water ability. So what they have asked us to do is work with them on a medium-range growth area plan, and we've brought that to you, and we had that approved, so that we could agree on areas where we are prioritizing our water service. This area is in our priority area, but not at the density being asked for. So therein lies the rub. It's not the developer's fault, it's not their problem, but if we rezone the property, the additional water that would be needed above and beyond what there is under current zoning, we have to shift that bubble somewhere else in the MRGA, meaning that somebody else has to get downzoned, somebody else has to be moved out. And again, let me make this very clear, that's not the developer's problem. And it's a theoretical problem. And I think that's where we get into these issues of the developer's 100% right. Can they get water tomorrow? Yes. If they wanted to sign an agreement with the city of Hagerstown, there is allocation available, they're in the MRGA, and they could get water tomorrow.
Right.
The question is of the density and what we will do So if we find it to be, that area to be a priority for residential development, and we want that to happen because we need that, and we do need it to support the economic development that's occurring in the county, we need to acknowledge the fact that we're going to change it somewhere else. That's all we were trying to get across to the group, is not that there's necessarily a shortage today or that the developer does not have access. They absolutely do. I hope that clarifies. Right, they've said that, right? The city has said that. Yes. I hope that clarifies.
That's what I sort of wanted to hear.
Yes.
Did you have any other
I'm done.
elephants? Just the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts over here?
I think Dave hit all the high and low points that we're all concerned about, talked about. So I'm with Dave. What's thoughts?
All right.
We talked about adequate green space for kids, things like that, but those would be things that would be discussed at the plan approval.
Site plan.
It's the one thing that I can't get back is the school capacity. That affects anybody who wants to build in that area. So unless redistricting takes place or another school is built or something has to happen at a whole other level other than us to make that work.
The only thing that I will say about the open space, there's two things I'll say about that, is that for future reference, if that's kind of a concern, that's something we want to let the developer know at the preliminary consultation phase, so that
Well, if you're having 200 apartments in a really dense commercial area like that, the first question that comes to my mind, where are the kids going to hang out? You know, is it in the parking lot? Or is it, causing trouble? Is it doing what? And what are the alternatives? That's one of the first questions that comes to my mind from a practical level.
Sure. The second part of that, I would say, is that, maybe we reevaluate our ordinance if you feel like maybe we need a little more space or to rethink.
It'd be worth it.
We should reevaluate our ordinances and look at that too.
Might not be a bad idea to look at mixed use at some point. How about you, Jeff? Anything to add?
Just a question is with regard to the water. The water's there now, I got that. But is the continued build out of Westfield considered in that? Okay, that's all. Because that's already on the books approved. And
All right. Anything further? Any further questions, comments, anything that you have for staff? Do you have anything else, staff? All right, then I'd be looking for a recommendation to the county commissioners on this.
I would move to make a recommendation opposing the zoning change based on the, how do I want to put this? Based on the inadequacy of the school facilities in that area. I want to be specific and say that's why I'm recommending against it. So it's not everything else, it's the inadequacy of the school.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing no discussion, is there a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right. Thank you, Travis. Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Quick question, Jill. If they come back and ask again based on doing age limited apartments,
They could amend their application. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. On our agenda, next we have new business. The first item there is McKee Solar Energy Generating System, SP-21-012. Site plan for proposed 2 megawatt solar energy generating system located along the north side of Hollow Road, south of Weller Road near Hancock. The zoning is environmental conservation, and Lisa is the planner. Good evening, Lisa.
As mentioned, this is site plan solar. It's a solar energy generating system. The site, as mentioned, is north of Hollow Road, south of Weller Road near Hancock. It has EC zoning. The developer is proposing to construct a 2 megawatt solar energy generating system on a 10-acre portion of a 202-acre parcel. The system will consist of 6,240 440-watt solar modules mounted to the ground and no more than 9 feet in height. The area will be surrounded by an 8-foot security fence and utilize a lockable gate for access. So here you have Hollow Road, and this is outlined here in the light green, this lease area. You have the access easement that's going up into the lease area. It connects with Hollow Road. You have the equipment pad shown here. And then all of this is the solar panels. And around that would be the fence, the 8-foot security fence. And the gate would be in this area right here. As I mentioned, access is by way of a 40-foot ingress easement to Hollow Road. Developers have a lease agreement with the owner for 20 years with 2 10-year extensions for a possible 40 years total. Site is designed so that everything can be removed upon the lease termination. Also on site will be a TV switchboard and transformer pad, which I mentioned earlier. The Board of Zoning Appeals granted a special exception for the establishment of this solar field on December 30th, 2020. And included in the agenda packet is the opinion from that case. The forest conservation requirements will be met by retaining 1.75 acres of existing forest on site, and that's shown here in the dark green. And all the needed approvals have been received. Jill had asked me that upon conclusion, she'd like to make some additional comments in regard to this development.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Jill Baker, Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning. I had a good conversation this morning with David about solar energy generating systems in general and sort of getting a clarification on what the responsibilities of the Planning Commission are in looking at these site plans and what the different site plans are going to be coming forward. For this specific one, I think we are all pretty aware that this is a basically like a community solar facility where it is under the 2 megawatt limit. Therefore, it does not go through the Public Service Commission for their approval. They do not need that certificate of public necessity. So in those cases, our zoning ordinance rules the roost on uses and so forth. So tonight, what you're looking at is the site plan portion. So when you're looking at this, just know the fact that the zoning has been established, it's done. The Board of Zoning Appeals handled that, so that's not really an issue. And that the public comment period went through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So we don't really have to have a public comment period through with the site plan either. Really what your authority is in dealing with this site plan is determining whether or not it meets the definitions and the restrictions and so forth of the zoning ordinance as they are. Now, as a clarification to the bigger ones, the ones that are going to be going through PSC, you may very well start seeing those come to the Planning Commission as well. We are starting to see conditions being put upon those approvals for the certificate of public need by the PSC that they come before the Planning Commission for approval. Again, I know that seems a little bit backward because we have no authority over the siting of those and so forth. However, you do still have authority over the design and making sure that it meets the other things of our ordinances like forest conservation and so forth. So I just kind of wanted to make that a little bit clear that we understand that a whole lot of this is really outside of your authority and your limits, and your hands are kind of tied. But we wanted to make sure that we kind of, gave that clarity, and hopefully we can continue to give that clarity to the public to help them understand what our role is as the government is in these things as well. So
What was the public comment from the zoning appeal? Do you have any recap of that?
I do not, I was not in attendance for that.
And is the owner here of that property?
No, the engineers here and representatives of SGC Power and Nautilus Power are here. I was at that board.
I don't recall any,
There was nobody here for or against.
yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
recall us receiving any,
No.
no, so we've not received
Well,
any.
I guess it just is for my input, I can vote on this, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I can vote on this, because it's not going to go any further.
correct.
The farmer owns this, obviously, and he's selling how many acres to the leasing? How
20.
20 acres, and the soil's like, is it rocky soils? What soil do we know? Shale? I'm from the school of thought, me personally. I'm not going to hip hooray for solar at this point, but I'm more concerned with, if I'm a farmer, and I know some farmers are struggling, some are doing pretty good right now, but if, I hate telling people what they can do with their land. I really do. I hate that. I don't know why. It's just, and I just don't want to say, if that's up and I think I know where that's at. There's not hardly anybody around there.
I can interrupt for 1 second.
There's an area, okay,
This is Hollow Road.
right.
This is Weller Road. He owns the 200 acres that's on both sides of both roads. Here's the interchange. We get off of 70 and there's the Hancock Church of God's here and Jimmy Joy's is right here. So
Oh, yeah, so he's back in the boonies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just where I stand on it. I'm not saying yay or nay. If I want to hear everybody else and see what the argument is. I don't see the harm in that being where it's at. It's not affecting anybody. It's not ruining anybody's view.
Well, again,
It's-
I'm sorry to interrupt, but keep in mind, that is, we're not here to approve the
Understand.
location of it.
Right.
That's already
We're
been
just-
decided.
okay.
Just,
We're here to give a recommendation or approve whether we're going to let
we're
it
here to
happen.
approve the design
Well,
that's.
In my mind, all that sort of ties in.
Okay.
You know, I'm being devil's advocate arguing with myself here.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so,
Stop arguing.
So that's sort of where I stand. I just gets back to telling a man that's worked all of his life on a farm, he can't sell 20 or at least 20 acres when it's really not hurting anybody. That's, now, it might be a different story if we're in the middle of a nice subdivision or something. So, okay. I'm done.
Any other comments?
I'm good.
Looking,
I'm gonna abstain from the vote in the discussion because whether I support or don't support or whatever could be construed as a conflict of interest.
understood.
But I agree with Randy about property rights, but I also think that if I discover uranium in my backyard, you know, maybe I have the right to mine that, but do I have the right to have a uranium mine just because I own the land? Do I really have the right to do that? So that I always kind of temper my thought. I believe in the property rights very much so. And we typically vote along those lines, but there has to be limits, I think, and consideration on case by case situations. But in this case, I will abstain from the vote.
All right.
You
Jeff?
said they're representatives of the company. Can I ask them a question?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
So this seems to be ideally located, out of sight, out of mind. Why only 9 or 10 acres?
So this system is incorporating single axis trackers. Those take about 6 to 7 acres per megawatt. And since we're capped with the community solar program in Maryland at 2 megawatts, we're already capped at. And they also outline that you are not allowed to subdivide your property to.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you. Anything else? If not, I'm looking
Just
for a
out of
motion.
curiosity, have the interconnection, is all that work with Potomac Edison been done?
I know that we have submitted a report, an application for the interconnection. Where that is in the process yet, we may not have gotten the install or upgrade costs yet, but we have been talking.
Comes out the access road and it connects right here.
What, do you know the voltage?
I do not.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. I know that we have. Yeah, I know that we have gotten confirmation from Potomac Edison to install the capacity, but we just haven't gotten those.
Yeah, 2 megawatts of capacity wouldn't be the issue. The issue would be, do you have to build in the access lines across other people's property to interconnect? And again, that's and part of the reason that I'm going to abstain from the vote on this is because this is not to serve a farmer on his farm. This is to sell power onto the grid.
Yeah, well, capacity is the issue here. If there wasn't capacity available, we would not be able to.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And I abstain.
And, oh, yes, and David Klein abstained for the record. Sorry about that. Got it. The second item under new business, we have Gateway Business Park, SP-21-010. Site plan for 2 proposed warehouses with offices totaling 80,000 square feet, commercial retail space totaling 9,800 square feet, and a fast food restaurant totaling 2,550 square feet on 11.76 acres of property located on the northwest corner of Arnett Drive and Supercenter Drive. Zoning is highway interchange, and Lisa's the planner. Good evening, Lisa, again.
Okay. As mentioned, this is a site plan for the business park. The site is at the corner of Arnett and Supercenter Drive, west of Sharpsburg Pike, HI zoning. The Walmart is over here, and these buildings shown in white are those 4 that are proposed here on the site plan. We total, as mentioned, 80,000 square feet. Commercial retail, 9,800 square feet, which would be this one. Then you have the 2,500 square feet for fast food, and then the 2 warehouses the two warehouses that are 80,000 square feet. There will be several access points into the site from a public roadway, which is Arnett. This being Arnett Drive, and then you have Supercenter Drive, and then Bentonville Drive, and those are both private. This would be the stormwater management area in this.
Where's the Walmart again? Right there.
This would be the parking for the Walmart, and then the building would be in this area here. This area here looks like the
That's H&H.
So is that,
car repair,
No, that's H&H.
H&H, okay.
Yeah, that's the old Arnett garage.
Okay.
Used to have, that's on that
This
part.
down here would be the somewhere along here.
yeah, where's Bulldog at? I'm trying to get acclimated here. Right there. Okay, yeah.
Across the road.
All right. I'm just having problems here. Just
Arnett's, Bulldog, this is Kaplaners. You pull in here, if you make a right, you go into the new Walmart, which is over
Right.
here. So it's down here.
Yeah, this is an old aerial. That's closed.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jeff. Now I know where I'm at.
The total of the site is 11.76 acres. No, that's fine, that's fine. The site will be served by public water and sewer, obviously. Warehouses are 7 days a week, 24 hours per day. Commercial will be 8 to 9, Saturday through Sunday. Restaurant open 7 days, 24 hours per week, or 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. Total number of 68 employees are projected for all of the buildings. Deliveries will be daily to several times per week, depending on the particular use or building. All buildings will have mounted lights and pole lights in the parking area. You can see in the darker gray. Here would be the parking area for the restaurant, the retail over here on this side for the warehouse, this side, and then you have the truck court would be here in the middle. Total number of parking spaces to be provided is 323 spaces, and a total of 142 are required, so we have more than enough. All buildings will have mounted signs. There will be one pylon sign with dimensions of 25 feet by 6, and that's to be located right here at this one, off of Barnett Drive. Landscaping will be located throughout the parking lot and along Barnett Drive. The forest requirements were partially met with the development of adjacent businesses, i.e. the Walmart, back many years or several years ago. With the requirement of this acreage, or with the development of this acreage, a remaining payment in lieu of $5,619.24 will be required. So once that's paid, then all forest conservation requirements will be taken care of. All the needed approvals have been received in our office. This over here is being proposed, this is zone R over here. So there was discussion between Trevor Frederick, who is the engineer for the developer, making sure that there was adequate screening here and in this area to buffer the residential on this side, because in the HI district, the zoning ordinance, when you have those two different uses, you have to make sure that there's an adequate buffer, screening, and or fencing. But fencing would be pretty awkward at that site and probably impede sight distance for people coming out. So we do have, I really stressed having the evergreen here and here to buffer as much as possible this site from here. I mean, it's hard because you have a HI commercial and then here, you can only do so much, but.
I don't see any, so I'm looking at, I don't see any cons to this. Do you have any, have the county expressed any negatives?
I haven't heard of any negatives, and I mean, the zoning has already been decided as to what,
Right.
Between the commercial and the residential use. I think that's already been discussed. Everybody would know up front, what's going to be going on as far as the mixed use in that area. But I just wanted to, make it a point that, we really wanted to emphasize putting something here.
Because that's, I think, Dan Ryan or something down in there, right?
Yeah, we don't have any development plans on that yet.
This house is already built out, I think.
Are you
Yeah.
the builder?
Yeah, that's.
You're already over here?
Yeah.
Bills at Gateway's already built out.
Yeah, they're built.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cody did those, so I'm.
Yeah.
Sorry, so another,
It's done.
okay, I'm sorry.
They're closed.
Another planner worked on that, so I'm not.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. I was hoping I'd sell a house down there with y'all doing
Okay, yeah,
it.
this would be the buildings at Gateway. I wasn't sure exactly.
Having
So I
that,
think it's actually on that. That's already been reviewed.
okay. Any questions for Jill? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
We can ask you questions too, I guess.
So it's Jill's
I-
fault. That's
right.
good. It's all Jill's fault.
It was a long weekend. I'm just a little tired. But any questions on this application?
So this drawing will be the final drawing for the shrubs and screening.
Well, this has the site plan, yeah, this is a PSP. Or site plan,
This is
I'm sorry, SP. So, this would be, yes. This would be it.
Okay.
I'd motion to approve.
So we have a motion for approval. Is there a second? We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I appreciate it.
There's so much that has gone on in this area that I kind of lose track sometimes.
Yeah, it's
What is it yet?
it's been pretty active.
Yeah.
65 is pretty busy.
Anyway.
Yeah, no question about it. Last time I was down there was just a few weeks.
Like you said, it's supposed to be
It
busy.
took a long time to get through there.
That's the whole point. Right?
Yeah.
All right, next on For the agenda under new business, we have Fix and Go Truck Repair Nursery Road, SP-21-008. Site plan for a proposed truck repair facility located at 16925 Bentwood Drive. Zoning is highway interchange, and Scott is the planner. Good evening, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. So I just said
Where's
that
yours?
the site plan for Fix and Go Truck Repair Drive, is designed to be highway interchange. Site located at 1.16925 Bentwood Drive, Castle Boulevard and near Hookwell Road. Proposed is 21,500 square foot facility for tractor trailer repair. There will be one access point to the site from Bentwood Drive. Required parking is 25 spaces. 25 spaces will be provided. Public water and sewer will service the site.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
No. It's gonna be an on-site well and a private septic system down there in the lower left-hand corner.
Okay, so public water will not service the property. Hours of operation will be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Lighting will be building mounted and AC driven. There is no signage proposed at the property. There is 2.73 acres of on-site forest retention at the property. And we have received all agency approvals for this project.
Okay. Any questions?
The health department signed off on the septic in the well for standalone commercial property?
It's been a whole like process over the summer, to request, I believe, now. Yeah.
This is the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they found out later that where they wanted to tie in the sewer was private, not public.
Yeah, the closest sewer is across CSX railroad tracks.
And the sewer line that runs through the Lakeside Villas property there.
It's too far.
There's a manhole right there, actually at the edge of our property, which we were proposing to tie into, but Mark Bradshaw at the water quality department said he can't tie into that.
Huh.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next, under new business, we have Walgreens SP-21-016. Site plan for proposed Walgreens on 0.7 acres located at 13415 Pennsylvania Avenue. Zoning is business general, and Scott is still at bat.
Meeting again. Presented, we have a site plan for Walgreens on Pennsylvania Avenue. The site is located at 13415 Pennsylvania Avenue, on the east side near North Point Avenue. Proposed is a new 2,550 square foot building for a pharmacy, replacing the existing structure. There will be one access point to the property from Pennsylvania Avenue. Parking required will be 13 spaces, providing 24. Public water and sewer will be provided. Hours of operation at this site will be 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Lighting will be provided via pole lights and building mounted. Signage will be building mounted and pole mounted. The pole mounted sign is an existing sign that is going to be refaced. And with this one, we do have all the required agency approval.
All right, I gotta get acclimated again. I'm on Google Earth. What
What used to be there? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Pike.
Yeah. Okay, I thought
Yeah,
that.
right.
Bikers is on the corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
There.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Spikers.
That's
Okay.
what I thought, but I'm 100% sure. All
I only live about 2 blocks from there, that's why.
right.
He has trouble getting home.
Any questions? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yes.
I love redevelopment when we can, so
Yep.
this sort of fits the bill for that, in
Perfect.
my opinion.
There goes the yard salers.
Well, that would be their loss, I guess.
There you go.
We're live streaming as we speak. So I'm looking for a motion. I've got a motion and a second. Do I have a second? I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Scott. So next on our agenda, we have forest conservation, and we're back again for fix and go truck repair at Lappin's SP-21-003. Request for the removal of specimen trees from property located at 16001 Lappin's Road, zoning is highway interchange. And Travis has got a good evening, Travis. Welcome back.
Good evening, Travis Allen with Planning and Zoning again. It's a little bit confusing, actually. This is a different
Hi, it's a different location.
truck repair site
Yeah,
than the
yeah,
last one. So you will be
Yep.
seeing this site plan in the coming months.
Yeah.
All agencies' approvals, we're in at this point. I figured we just take care of the forest at this
Yeah.
point.
I knew that and still was processing.
It took me a minute once they put up the agenda to figure out which.
What was going where?
Myself. So
Right.
That's why I kept checking the end.
Yeah, Lappin's, right.
just happened to be two under review at exactly the same time. So, yeah, so this one is at 16001 Lappin's Road, 9.6 acres within the limited disturbance. They're requesting to remove one specimen tree. Again, a site plan for the tractor trailer repair facility. So you'll recall from these presentations from the past that specimen trees are prioritized for retention under Article 8 of the Forest Conservation Ordinance. Therefore, variance is required under Article 15 in order to remove these trees. And essentially, the applicant must prove that there is conditions of hardship that warrant their removal and note any effects on water quality that would occur as a result of removing the specimen trees. So you have a memo which summarizes their request. You have the Forest Conservation Plan, which notes the trees to be removed, as well as those retained and the location of the on-site easements. And then you have the justification of the qualified construction. Looking at what's cited in their letter was what's occurring with the site. You'll note that the tree is located within an area that's being graded for road access. And as noted in the justification letter, the stormwater management and the septic area limit your ability to vary where that road access is located in terms of avoiding that tree. You know from the Forest Conservation Plan too that they are proposing to do some on-site planting on a site that doesn't currently have any existing forest, so they would be getting that benefit. And they are preserving 2 specimen trees as a part of the site. So the request is to remove one of the 3 specimen trees.
What kind of tree is it?
Black cherry.
I was gonna say, it's not a Norway maple, I hope.
No, not either.
Not this time.
I took my drug before it came out. Oh, my man.
Cause, wow.
Wow.
I'll be in trouble and I must have missed that.
Yeah, you did.
You should have recorded that. I'm gonna be listening.
There's some trees you might not like. That could be an understatement.
We'll let you lead this conversation, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Hit the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Any further comments?
Move to approve.
Good.
We've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, the next under forest conservation is Trammell Crow, Downsville Pike, GP-21-016. There's a request for the removal of 5 specimen trees from property located along the north side of Sterling Road, south of the I-70 interchange, and the zoning is highway interchange. And Travis, yet again, has this as you have all forest conservation.
All right. So this, as you obviously know, is a grading plan. Again, this is another project in the pipeline that site plan, we haven't actually seen at this point, perhaps it's coming to remain. But right now, we're just looking at the grading plan, which is 434 acres. Right at the interchange of Downsville Pike and I-70, that big piece of land just south of that interchange there. In this case, they're requesting to remove 5 specimen trees, and I don't think they have specified particularly what the use is going to be at this point, but I believe it's going to be another warehouse or logistics facility at that site, which you can see from the forest conservation plan, basically takes up the entire parcel. So because they are developing, largely the entire parcel, obviously that again limits your ability to vary the site design to potentially avoid some of these trees. You'll note that 2 of the trees are located directly in the center of the site. The other 3 are located in either be parking or lanes for circulation for the internal traffic that likely is to be going through the site for that particular kind of use. You'll see along the eastern part of the site, they are again proposing to do some on-site planting, which will mitigate some of the forests that they're intending to remove as a part of this. And neither will be satisfied off-site. As always, you have to satisfy that with 2-to-1 ratio. So they'll be proposing to put 78 acres under easements. In this particular case, that's at the Potomac Fish and Game Club. So that's obviously not directly in the vicinity where this project is happening, but you are permanently retaining a forested buffer right next to the Potomac River. And that club does actually have an approved forest management plan so that they are engaging in, sustainable forestry and other practices to put the easement in a good spot in the future. So request is to remove 5 specimens.
Yes, what the trees are.
That's fine.
I think they're mostly hackberry from what I can see on the drawing.
Any questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I move to approve.
Got a motion? Is there a second? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Chuck. Go ahead. All right. Next, we have other business. Update of staff approvals. Rebecca, you're up.
So that was included in your packet is the updated report, which one of the changes the day had suggested as the last meeting. So when we look through the report, it actually had been set up with active projects only, so you weren't getting the full snapshot of what was coming through the office in the specified period of time. So we updated that. And then the number of permits and things increased significantly. And based on some of that discussion, this is actually looking at the prior full month when the agenda is prepared. So this is for the whole month of August. So the next month you'll see the whole month of September, et cetera. So if you have any questions.
Any questions from members? Yeah, pretty straightforward. You're staying busy. Thank you. All right, next we have comprehensive plan update, comments on chapter 10 of community facilities, and chapter 11, historic planner is Jill Baker. Jill, I can't get anything right today. Everyone's name's wrong.
It's Monday. First of the month,
I like that. We did that.
first of the federal fiscal year. I could go on with excuses.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I had fiscal year things going on for me, so.
Very, very quickly before I get into the comprehensive plan information, I would like to inform the planning commission members of actions taken by the Board of County Commissioners last week with regard to departmental reorganizations. You may have read about it in the newspaper. With the resignation of the Director of the Department of Plan Review and Permitting, Mr. Ashley Holloway, we found an opportunity whereby we could make a streamlined reorganization to make things a little more efficient, a little more streamlined, and a little bit more user or business friendly. So what has happened is that the Division of Plan Review and Permitting is going away. The staff that are currently in that division are being distributed between 3 other existing departments. The first department is the Department of Planning and Zoning. We will receive 5 of those staff members who will be the planners that you see here all the time, and our zoning staff. They will be coming into our department. The Division of Engineering will receive 3 staff members. They will be the plan reviewers who do the engineering plan reviews for stormwater management and sediment erosion control and things like that. That includes Rebecca, so you probably will stop seeing Rebecca come to some of these meetings as her duties
I'm
change.
bummed by that.
I'm bothered by it myself, but
Okay, you know what? I'm okay with it now.
there you go. So
My stance has changed completely.
That's just wrong.
and then the remainder of the staff, who are mostly our permitting technicians, will then go to a newly renamed division. They're currently the Division of Construction, which houses our inspectors, our building inspectors, and our building code plan reviewers. Those technicians will move into that department. It will be renamed back to the Division of Permits and Inspections. So we're working toward that. Today was the first effective day of that. We're going to be working through some of those changes. Really, there shouldn't be any change from the outside, to be honest with you. Everything is pretty much staying the same. Almost everybody's going to continue the exact same job duties they had before. There'll be a little bit of shifting, but our goal is that you'll really see nothing different in the processes as they exist today.
So with all that efficiency and changing and everybody happy, we saved how much?
A little over $165,000
There you go.
in salary and benefits. So, good news. And again, I don't see any changes in processes or anything like that. I think we'll just keep on trucking. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So moving on to the item at hand, our comprehensive plan. We're still trying to push through getting this draft finished up and out to the public. So you'll recall at our last meeting, we handed out to you chapters 10 and 11, which are the community facilities and our historic and cultural resources chapters. We had asked you to make any comments that you may have for this evening so that we can, again, make those changes and put this in a kind of a final draft format. We can answer any questions you might have, and then we'll move on to the next chapter. So I'll open it up with chapter 10, community facility. I'm not going to give you a very big discussion about that. It's pretty straightforward. I'm open to any comments, thoughts, ideas, concerns.
The only question I have, not really a question, I guess, the projected surplus and deficit is fine, except for the fact that it's looking system-wide, and we know we have a problem. And that's South Anderson High School. So I'm not sure how this, I'm not saying this document has to address it, but I'm saying the document that's referenced up here, Washington County Public Schools education facilities master plan needs to address it. I don't know, you put the pressure on that.
Yeah, so to answer that question, we are right now evaluating all of the schools right now, elementary through high school, in our department. And we're working to put together fact sheets about each and every one. And as part of that, we're looking at projected enrollment growth and so forth in those school districts. What we're seeing right now is within the high school, let's be specific to the high school. We know that South Hagerstown High School is right around 120%. North Hagerstown High School is pushing right around exactly 100%. The other major urban growth area high school that we have is Williamsport High School, which is hanging at about 85 to 87%. We also have adjacent school districts such as Clear Spring High School, which I believe is hanging in the 70%-ish. We have Smithsburg High School, which I think is in the 80-ish percentage, and then Boonesboro High School, which I believe is also somewhere in the 80s. So what we are probably looking at is, once we get a handle on all of that, is discussing this with the Board of Education, and more than likely looking at redistricting. Because quite frankly, nobody has the funds to build a high school, nor do we know at this point in time that we would have the students to fill it. I'm not going to say that we wouldn't have to upgrade or something to some of those high schools to fit the needs. But that's a discussion that we are gearing up for with the Board of Education as we speak. They don't know about that. That's still probably be news to them. But we at a staff level are working on that so that we can start having some conversations about that. I think the school board is keenly aware of these issues. And, you know, right now, I think their focus is the elementary schools, because they are, as a whole, very close to 100%, if not a little over. So there's a lot of focus on a lot of different issues, and we are working hard to get our hands around that, to tackle that with the school board. So yes, that is why we didn't really say in the document specifically which way we're going to go with that, because ultimately that is a Board of Education decision to make. And then collaboratively with the Board of County Commissioners in terms of funding and so forth. So that's the tight line we walk when we do these kind of documents, like how far do you go in saying build a school, don't build a school, that kind of thing. But I hope that answered your question. I get long-winded sometimes.
Really?
The public schools educational facilities master plan gives you kind of a broad overall snapshot of what's happening in the entire school system, more so in the introductory phase of the plan before drilling down in terms of what's happening for each school. So I think, yeah, in that sort of introductory part of the plan, they just look at, you know, we have capacity in the whole system versus some of the schools obviously have issues that you're kind of talking about. But that's, I think, kind of what is likely probably cited in the text there.
It's probably going to be a big problem because there's so many people moving in the area. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are experiencing growth. We are definitely experiencing growth in hot spots. And so we need to be aware of that and concerned of it. And again, working with our municipalities as well. They are growing as well. That's all good news for us. So we need to make sure we're all kind of working together. So yeah, we definitely will have to address it in the near term.
Okay, under commercial communications facilities, broadband facilities, you know, I'm going to, focus on this one a little bit. You've got fiber optic cable. On the second paragraph, you've got, services offered, fiber optic cable, cellular, DSL, and wireless. I would say you probably can scratch DSL. There are no new providers. Verizon is no longer offering new DSL connections. They're any existing ones are grandfathered in and are going to go away eventually. And where it says cellular, and then you also have wireless, I would say fixed wireless, because otherwise, to differentiate between cellular. And you don't mention cable, like antenna cable, like cable coax type of cable internet. That's another option. And then the last paragraph under broadband facilities, the one, and again, keep in mind where this is coming from. You mentioned a private entity as a gigabit provider, and there are more than one private entities in this county now providing fiber optic internet gigabit services. So I would either make it fair for all or eliminate that in some way.
Understand?
Yeah. And I just had another question, because this is just my own curiosity. Under museums, it says there are XX local museums. Do we ever find out how many local museums we have? I'm just curious. If you don't know yet, that's fine too. When I read through it the other day, I was like, I wonder how many. I was trying to count in my head. There's a lot.
There's a ton of museums.
Yeah.
Did you get the Dolman Museum?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
How many?
Downtown of the old election board.
I was just curious. If you don't know off the top of your head, don't.
Let's all count them.
Historic section, it's nearly 25.
Okay. Wow. Well, because there's a placeholder in chapter 10. That's why I asked.
That could be a contest, a museum trail.
Yeah, I do. Hang on.
I did the humane.
You know what?
trail.
A trail would be definitely very cool. It's on 1025 under other museums, cultural facilities.
Perfect.
I was just curious this.
Any other thoughts about community facilities? So the next chapter is our historic and cultural resources. Again, we tried to keep a lot of the stuff that we already have in our comprehensive plan and add to that some of the initiatives that are being promoted by our local historic groups between the Historic District Commission and our historical societies, so forth and so on. We did receive a lot of comment from those groups as part of our input meetings. So we got a lot of good information out of them and things that we can incorporate into the document. So I feel like, we're moving forward with those efforts, and they work well with our existing policies and land use goals. So that's the chapter 11 that we have. I'm happy to, again, take any comments, thoughts, ideas.
I mean, I notice on the next to last page, you bring up demolition and demolition by neglect. I don't really have a main point here, so don't worry. I just talk about, let's see here, what was I going to say? Priorities for the county to combat the issues. I just wonder what the point is, or what the benefit is of saying, talking about it without necessarily having like a solution in the document.
I think we have a lot of solutions in the document.
I'm talking about that specifically, though, when we talk about demolition by neglect. Because basically we say, well, it's a problem, or potentially a problem, but how do we address it or how we deal with it isn't really in the document.
Actually, there was a meeting, historical advisory, that was supposed to do a workshop with them to discuss things. So there could be more come from it. I don't know.
Okay.
We definitely, because keep in mind too, that you guys have not seen our implementation plan either. So some of the recommendations and so forth.
Come into that. Okay.
That'll come into that. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, the historic groups struggle with that just as much in terms of,
how they want that expressed.
yeah, in terms of, we're back to property rights and things like that. But we also want to be very informational and educational for people with these resources and things that they can do. That even if they don't want to save the house themselves, or I shouldn't say save, but if they don't want to restore the home or the structure themselves, things that they can do to button up some of the target areas like your roof and your things like that, that actually cause the damage. If we could find ways for them to sort of just button things up and just let it sit until maybe somebody does come along that would want to rehab that resource or something like that. But we share that, that frustration of how do you define it? How do you provide incentives? How do you go through all of that education and so forth? So I think you'll see more of that in the implementations.
All right.
Any
Okay.
other thoughts
Great.
about historical?
Okay. I don't think we have anything other than those comments, and probably pretty much a green light at that point for those.
Good.
Chapters.
So the next two chapters that we have.
Got 13 and 14.
There are three chapters. So the next three chapters we've provided to you. This will sort of wrap up the how do I want to put it? This will wrap up most of the laying the background for the document and why we're doing what we're doing in our policies. So chapter 12 is our agriculture and forest resources. As you recall, during our input meetings, agriculture was talked about at every single meeting and as a very key industry for us and a very key use. So that to the point where we felt like it was important enough to raise it to the level of having a county chapter. And to go along with those agricultural resources, we felt like forest resources would go right in there as well, because sometimes they do go hand in hand with a lot of farming operations. So you'll see a good bit of information in there about our agricultural operations, the demographics of it, some comparisons of development versus preservation. You'll see some of our land management policies, some of our programs that we use to help farmers preserve the land rather than convert the land. You'll then see some information again about forestry, the background, the data, the demographics of it, and then talking about some of the forest conservation programs that we have. Chapter 13 is our sensitive areas. This is a required element by the state of Maryland. It focuses on 4 primary different sensitive areas. They include streams and their buffers, floodplains, steep slope, and habitats of rare and of threatened and endangered species. Sorry, I'll get that out. So we do kind of talk a little bit about each of those little sensitive areas, where they are, what they mean, what our policies are. And then we also have special planning areas that we have designated ourselves right here in Washington County. They include the Beaver Creek watershed, the Edgemont watershed, and the Appalachian Trail buffer. Again, talks about why we have designated those as specific planning areas and some of the things that we do to implement protective measures, protective policies in those areas. Final chapter is mineral resources. Again, this is a required element, otherwise we probably wouldn't do it. That's why it's nice and short. Basically, what we're trying to show here is what our existing mineral resources are within the county. It is a good a resource for our, industry for us. We want to talk about the impacts on development, land around it, and then lastly, the reclamation efforts that go through our mining efforts. So as I said, those are going to be the last kind of background kind of chapters. The last 2 chapters that you guys will see will be the meat and potatoes, which is the land use plan and the water resources element. God help me, they are still being written right now. We're working diligently to get that to you because those are the hardest ones to put policies to. That's where the rubber meets the road, and we want to make sure we get you a clean product before we get to that point. So what we're going to ask is that you review then chapters 12, 13, and 14, and get back to us with any comments at the next meeting.
Yep.
I don't know that we'll need a workshop. It's very hard for us to tell what's going to be on what agenda,
No,
to be
yeah,
honest, but
I understand.
we'll take a look at the next agenda. If we feel like you won't have time, then, you know, we can always have another workshop and go through that. So again, we appreciate your time and efforts going through this. I know it's dry, but it is important and it will inform what we talk about in the next two chapters for the land use and the water resources. Any other thoughts, questions, or concerns about the comprehensive plan?
I'll probably get to hear it again, won't I?
In detail.
You're going to hear a lot of it.
I know there's no way to prevent this, but you know, when the chickens and property.
Yes.
When people find out you're on the planning, commission,
Yes.
my point to them was, you should have been here 10 years ago.
This is always the tightrope we walk, right? Is in a capitalist society, free market society, that's the way things go. It's a democracy. We set forth decades ago where these growth area boundaries are. There's facilities, there's infrastructure right there in place. There's water lines, there's sewer lines, there's roads. So I completely understand all of the constituents' concerns about the history and the view sheds and things like that. But again, these were decisions made years ago that this would be growth area.
You can sit on the front porch of that historic home and have a clear view of FedEx. So the view shed is a non-starter here, in my humble opinion. I don't know.
And I think we tried to talk about that a little bit in our comprehensive plan to understand.
I think you've
That
done a great
balance.
job. I just think people
Yeah.
need to get out and they're complaining about a ship that's already left the port.
I think that happens all the time. That'll happen with just, and it could even be at the, very specific site plan level. You get people that will say, that kind of things. It's I think, part
So
of
the
the
best we
process.
can do is sort of mitigate concerns that, really can have compatibility issues with neighboring properties or whatever within the limits of what our ordinances allow us.
That's why we exist.
I'll have to say something. When I went,
Oh, watch out.
You wanna
Turn it
go?
off. Turn the mic off.
yeah, wait.
Well, here, let's just
I am
make
complete
sure
with my,
you're finished with the comprehensive
Yes.
plan. So the next item on our agenda is adjournment. I need a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're adjourned. Let me shut off the mic.